I hadn't been watching. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the regular meeting of the Village Board for December 3rd, 2018. Please rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Clerk Hannaberry, attendance, please.
Trustee Vogel?
Here.
Trustee Papanos?
Present.
Trustee Vito?
Here.
Trustee Lang?
Here.
Trustee Krueger?
Present.
President Horker?
Here. No minutes. Changes to the agenda?
No changes this evening.
Thank you, sir. Proclamations, appointments. Citizens' concerns and comments. Clerk Hannaberry.
Members of the public may address the committee with comments regarding only those items that are relevant to village business. No citizen shall speak for more than 5 minutes without consent of the committee. Members of the general public who wish to address the board must sign the request to speak form prior to the commencement of the public meeting. Mr. Abbott.
Just as a reminder, this is a time for citizens to make comments and express their concerns and for the board to listen. We will not be engaging in either comment or debate. Good evening.
Yes, sir. Good evening. Good evening, everyone. I'm Jamie Abbott, the Executive Director of the Chicago Executive Airport. And this evening, I'd like to invite everyone to join us tomorrow night for a Master Plan Phase 3 open house public meeting. The event starts at 5 p.m., goes till 7 p.m. at the Ramada Inn at 1090 South Milwaukee. It would be a great opportunity to see and hear how the master plan is progressing in this final phase. So just a little preview. I know most of you know what a master plan is, but for the benefit of your audience, and especially if you can't join us tomorrow night, the Airport Master Plan is a document outlining short, medium, long-term plans for airport development. Very similar to how a community does community plans. It covers safety improvements, aviation demand, technology enhancements, new regulations, and the long-term viability of the airport. The last master plan was completed about 30 years ago. So what specifically will this master plan address? The most obvious things studied by a master plan are always runway alternatives, meaning the runway lengths, reconfigurations, etc. Just as important as runways are hangars, aprons, auto parking, airport admin and maintenance buildings, customs and border protection, aircraft fueling, airport access, and so forth. The master plan will examine key trends in aviation, such as changing business models, improvements in technology, local regional economics that could affect the airport. Tools, and also gives us tools to react to uncertainties and plans for the airport's success. So what you need to know beforehand, before tomorrow night's open house. It's a workshop environment designed to get input from the public, individuals, and small groups, and this is pretty important. The airport has not yet screened development alternatives for runways or other infrastructure. There are no predetermined or already decided future developments, whether that be a change in current runways, taxiways, or other infrastructure. One of the development alternatives will be a do-nothing or a no-build alternative, which means there would be no change in airport runway configurations. The goal of the open house is to gather input of the residents and factor that into the plan itself. There will be another open house near the end of the project at the end of next year. So what will you see tomorrow if you could join us? There'll be a short video presentation about the purpose and the status of the master plan, about 5 minutes long. And then there'll be a room with stations featuring visual exhibits, large posters of the work done in phases 1, 2, and then thus far in phase 3. There'll be preliminary alternatives developed by the stakeholder involvement group with the opportunity to comment on those exhibits. There'll also be an ability to talk to airport staff, consultants, and subject matter experts on the master plan. And then lastly, there'll be an opportunity to get hands-on with exhibits and new ideas that citizens can submit on the master plan. What you won't be seeing tomorrow, so there's not going to be a formal presentation or large group discussion, so there's no need to show up right at 5 o'clock. And since there's no agenda, there's no 5-minute style comment section of the session as well. And then most importantly, I've said this before, but there's no alternatives with final determinations of runways and other infrastructure at the open house tomorrow. What happens after the open house? There'll be further consideration by the stakeholder involvement group and more public input. And there'll be the input of the Airport Board of Directors. And then at the end of the master plan will be a presentation to the City of Prospect Heights and the Village of Wheeling on the future airport layout plan, which will be presented final determined alternatives for the airport infrastructure. So I thank you for your time tonight. Hope that was informative, and I hope to see you at tomorrow night's open house. There's more information about the open house posted on the airport website at shyexec.com. Good evening, sir. Yes, sir.
Deborah Wilson.
Village Manager Svandelis, at the end of the last meeting, after I, not at the end, but after I sat down, I believe that you falsely misrepresented what I had said by saying that everything you just heard is false and exactly the opposite, that you had recommended lowering, well, I'll just show what you.
In response to what you just heard, I suggest that everyone go and watch the meeting from Saturday, November 3rd. Everything you just heard is exactly the opposite of what was said during that meeting. In fact, the recommendation from staff was to ask the board to lower the investment returns from 7.5 to 7.25 for the exact purpose of making sure that we meet the 90% funded by 2040.
Okay, so never in my presentation did I say that you were recommending something different than what you just said. What I expressed concern about was some of the, what I believe was a bad advice. I feel that you were grooming the board to do something, or not to take the law very seriously because you said this. Oh, great. That one doesn't have, excuse me.
Of 90% funded by 2040 is something that has been debated among managers and finance directors for a long time. Because why? Why do you need to be 90% funded when the only reason you would need 90 or 100% funded is if we went out of business? Right? It's the only time that you would have to pay out the full value of the pension at any given time. So Michael has a lot more to say, but the next slide is, it is the next slide, right? I think so. Okay, good. The next slide is one of the most impactful things that I think I've ever seen when it comes to discussing pension liability and why the rule that we, collectively we, not the Village of Wheeling, all of us in Illinois have to follow makes really no sense.
Okay, so that is contrary to law. I'm very grateful that our finance director wrapped that up. He went through why we still have to follow the law in the end, regardless of what researcher Seguro said.
So most people have been led to believe that unless you're 100% funded, you're going to run out of money. But Seguros argues that that's not in fact true, because you can continue to pay your pension debt, your pension benefits, for years and years with much less than 100% funding.
Okay, so you set the agenda and you decide what our finance director does for his presentation, and I feel that you are grooming the elected officials to act contrary, to law.
In some cases, the investment returns are negative because, the stock market. argument that it's, in some ways, it's actually a negative to be 100% funded, because assuming that you're not going to need the money for many years to come, you could be using that to pay for infrastructure projects or additional employees if you need them or whatever. And so there's an opportunity cost to being 100% funded.
So when you spent a lot of time at the budget meeting talking about alternative uses of police and fire pension funds that we could actually benefit from underfunding, then that's concerning to me. So even though the elected officials made it abundantly clear at the end of that presentation, two in particular had tremendous disfavor for the Berkeley, where this research came from, and even though they advised to do the right thing in the end, you still spent a great deal of time grooming them to say, hey, maybe there's a benefit in going the other way. So I think that's really bad advice, and I think it's disrespectful and demoralizing to our fire and police. And considering what happened in Harvey, I think it's disrespectful to taxpayers.
Good night, Ms. Wilson. Anything else, Ms. Henneberry?
Nope, that's it.
Thank you. Mr. Janik, staff report.
Thank you. I just want to discuss with the board and the public snow. We're in the middle of winter now. We're not in the middle, almost beginning of winter, but we just had a vicious snowstorm last week. I think you all know that. We had 8 inches of very heavy snow, driving winds. And I just want the public, as well as everybody here, just to be careful when they're out. Just walking, driving. Our guys are out there salting and plowing. They're trying to be as careful as possible. I just want to make sure everybody knows that they're out, and they're trying to do the best they can to clear the roads. There are some tips in the newsletter that talk about shoveling your driveways, shoveling your properties to avoid having some of the snow get pushed back onto your driveway. Take note of that. Also, please, if possible, if you can clear your sidewalks, both for yourself as well as your neighbors. And one last thing is, during the last snowstorm, we as the village chose not to issue any warnings or tickets relative to cars parked on the street illegally. Just want to everybody take note that next time there is a storm, there is a certain amount of snow that you can, or that you're not supposed to be parking your car on village streets. There's signs in your neighborhood, and please observe those signs, because unfortunately it's very hard for our crews to clear the snow when cars are parked in the street or parked in driveways and sticking out in the road slightly. So please take note of those signs. Unfortunately, we do have to ticket people. The police will during the next storm, and please take note of that.
Thank you, Mr. Janik. Clerk Hanneberry, consent
Okay.
agenda.
All items listed on the consent agenda are considered to be routine by the village board and will be enacted in one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a board member or citizen so request, in which the event the item will be removed from the general order of business and considered after all other agenda items. 11A, resolution authorizing the acceptance of a previously bid contract for the purchase of implementation and training services for Motorola Solutions related to a regional 911 call station solution in an amount not to exceed $524,000. 11B, resolution authorizing the execution of system purchase and software support agreements with Tritech Software Systems for the purchase of implementation and training services related to a computer-aided dispatch CAD system software upgrade in an amount not to exceed $145,000. 11C, ordinance amending Title IX, Vehicles and Traffic, Chapter 9.20.101 of the Wheeling Village Code. 11D, resolution declaring a tax year 2017 surplus in the Crossroads Tax Increment Financing District Fund and authorizing the distribution of such to the Cook County Treasurer's Office. 11E, resolution declaring a tax year 2017 surplus in the South Milwaukee Manchester Drive Tax Increment Financing District Fund and authorizing the distribution of such to the Cook County Treasurer's Office. 11F, resolution approving a one-year renewal contract with Holiday Creations Pro for holiday lights installation, maintenance, and removal in an amount not to exceed $39,522.60 in fiscal year 2019.
Thank you. Are there any questions? There are no questions. I need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second?
Motion, trustee Vogel, second, trustee Kruger. Clerk Hannaberry, roll call, please.
Yeah, 1 second. Sorry, first was by who?
Vogel?
Oh, sorry, Vogel, okay.
Yes. Second by Kruger.
Kruger, thank you. Okay. Trustee Kruger?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Papanos?
Yes.
Trustee Vito?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
President Horker?
Yes. Thank you. New business.
Okay, let me just save here.
All set?
Yep, public hearing.
Hearing, public hearing.
Public hearing, 13A, public hearing regarding 2019 Village of Wheeling annual budget.
Mr. Ferrolo.
Thank you, President Horker. Tonight is the annual budget hearing for the 2019 fiscal year. Notice of this hearing was published in the Daily Herald on November 23rd, 2018. The proposed annual budget for the fiscal year beginning January 1st, 2019 and ending December 30th, 2019 has been available for public inspection since October 12th of 2018 at the Village Hall, on the Village website, and at the Indian Trails Public Library. At this time, members of the public, as we open the hearing, have an opportunity to present comments to the Village Board about the proposed budget. Comments should be restricted to the budget only, as this is the annual budget hearing. The annual budget, after the close of the hearing, will be voted on at the next Village Board meeting on December 17th.
Are there any comments relative to the budget?
Yes, at the budget meeting, our finance director informed us that we were going to the taxpayers were going to be burdened with, he didn't use the word burden, he said that we would you would have to have 5 years of incremental increases to the tax levy, or else there would be a very serious problem with providing the kind of services in terms of emergency services and public works that we are accustomed to now. He said that it wouldn't affect the first or second year, but certainly by the third year we'd be in very big trouble if we did not begin an incremental increases to the tax levy every year for the next 5 years. And what I was very disappointed about is on the budget. This is austerity for the taxpayers in Wheeling, and yet you still have the $20,000 employee appreciation event. And I just think that it gives the employees this false sense of prosperity here in Wheeling. And so it just seems inappropriate for the staff to enjoy this extraordinary party. You know, Northbrook has stopped doing that many years ago. I have FOIA'd like at least 20 villages around here. Nobody is spending more than like $2,500 on a employee appreciation event. As a matter of fact, the year before Mr. Svandillis became village manager, that I think it was $2,300 or $2,500 is all that was permitted for the employee appreciation event in that part of the budget. So you pay the Ram Pub and Brewery on Milwaukee Avenue to close to their public business for the night, and it's not just the $20,000. Then you've got professional photography coming out. You've got a band and DJ or whatever. It's just a luxury that I think that if you're going to be imposing taxes every year for the next 5 years, that you should impose some cuts to yourself, and I think that would be a good place to begin.
Thank you, Ms. Wilson. Does anyone else have comments about the budget? If there are no other comments, I need a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second?
Motion, trustee Vogel, second, trustee Papantos. Roll call, please.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Vito?
Yes.
Trustee Papantos?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Kruger?
Yes.
President Horker?
Yes. Item B.
13B, resolution accepting a proposal for liability insurance coverage from Arthur J. Gallagher Risk Management Services, Inc., and insurance consulting services from Nugent Risk Management Services.
Mr. Monshane, what do we have here?
Thank you, Mr. President. The item before you tonight is a renewal, in essence, of the village's liability and workers' compensation program for 2019. And I say renewal because, in essence, the program is the same as it was last year for 2018. The only difference is that the total cost of insurance premiums has gone down by $595 or 0.13% compared to the current year. Tonight, I asked our risk management consultant, Mike Nugent, to be at the meeting to answer any questions that you may have about the insurance program. So with that, I'll try to answer your questions, or Mike can answer your questions.
Questions to my right? There are no questions, Mr. Monshane. If there are no questions, I need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Motion, Trustee Kruger.
Second.
Second, Trustee Vogel. Roll call, please.
Trustee Kruger?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Papanos?
Yes.
Trustee Vito?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
President Horker?
Yes.
Okay. 13C, resolution approving a banking services agreement with MB Financial Bank.
You're up again, Mr. Monshane.
Thank you again. This item is a banking services agreement with MB Financial Bank. The village has banked with MB for the last 5 years. Prior to that, they were Cole Taylor Bank, but MB acquired them. And our contract or agreement with MB recently expired, so staff sent out a request for proposal to 3 area banks. We asked a 4th bank, Chase, to submit a proposal, but they declined to do so. 3 other banks, including MB, responded to the RFP. The other banks were Wintrust and Inland Bank. And the most competitive response that we received was from MB. They proposed a 5-year contract that will cost the village an estimated amount of $36,000 over 5 years after you take into consideration fees and the interest earnings that we will receive on the money that we keep at the bank. That produces savings compared to the other 2 proposals of anywhere between $66,000 and $145,000 over 5 years. I've asked our relationship manager, Jill Hagan, to be here tonight. Jill is a senior vice president of government banking with MB Financial, and she can answer any specific questions you have. The contract would be, if approved, would be with MB. MB recently was acquired by Fifth Third, so Fifth Third would acquire the contract when that process is complete. So with that, I or Jill will answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Mr. Monshane. Trustee Papantos?
Yes, my question does relate to the Fifth Third acquisition. Will that change our fees at all, or will there be anything else coming up with that?
No, the contract we would sign with MB, because as I understand it, the acquisition process hasn't been completed yet, but Fifth Third would assume that contract and would honor those fees over the 5-year period. And one thing I forgot to mention is the contract does include an option to renew for an additional 5 years after the first period expires.
At the same rate?
Well, the first 2 years, the fees are fixed, and then the final 3 years, they can increase the fees by up to 3% per year. So after the 5-year period, the initial 5-year period is up, we would have to renegotiate a fee increase at that point.
Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Papantos. Trustee Lang?
Thank you. Michael, I know you had it in the report, but can you just reiterate the fact that this branch is staying open once Fifth Third acquires?
You know, for that question, I'd like to defer to Jill because she knows more about that than I do. But that's what I've been told.
Thank you, everyone. Yes, that is the intent, that this branch will stay open. Once the transaction is complete, there will be some branch consolidation, but that is where there's overlap, branches on, Kitty Corner, and there is not a Fifth Third branch in the area, so that branch would then remain open. When we get final confirmation of what the branch layout is going to be, I will communicate that to Michael, but all indications right now are that branch is absolutely staying.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you, Trustee Lang. Any other comments, questions? If there are not, I would be looking for a motion to approve.
So moved.
Motion, Trustee Lang, second, Trustee Papantos.
Gotcha. Ready?
All set.
Okay. Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Vito?
Yes.
Trustee Papanos?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Krueger?
Yes.
President Horker?
Yes.
13D, ordinance amending various chapters and sections of Title V, Health and Sanitation of the Wheeling Municipal Code.
Mr. Jennings, you're up.
Thank you, President Horker. Community Development has prepared a draft ordinance for consideration tonight, which would amend several sections of Title V, which is Health and Sanitation of the Wheeling Municipal Code. The primary change that's described in this ordinance is the adoption of the new food code. This is a update to the food code that is required by the state of Illinois. In order for us to be in compliance with this state-mandated change, we need to adopt this with an effective date prior to January 1st of 2019. The memo does describe some of the key changes that are associated with the adoption of the new food code. That information is going to be included in a letter that we've drafted for our health permit establishments, restaurants, and other establishments that receive a health permit annually. There will be information on our website. The letter will refer them to the website for training materials associated with the adoption of the new food code. The modifications to the new food code will change the inspection style. The state, by adopting the new FDA food code, there's a standardized inspection form that all of our restaurants and other food service establishments will need to comply with the requirements listed on that form. We'll be working with them to educate them on that. So the changes are significant enough that the Community Development Department is also, in conjunction with this adoption, suggesting bringing on a third-party health inspection contractor to help us roll out these changes and to deal with the high volume of restaurants that we have here in Wheeling. The contract is not on for discussion this evening. It would be on at a later meeting, but I just wanted to be clear that our intention is to introduce the third-party health inspector to help us educate the restaurants and to deal with the new inspection style. The other changes that are described in the ordinance in front of you, let me just scroll down to it, mostly are minor changes dealing with obsolete sections of the code, regulations that we are either covered by some other regulation or it's an archaic reference that's no longer necessary. Just by quick reference, that includes regulations associated with dairy farms, milk dealers, food vending machines, regulations that are contained in other sections of the code. Business licensing now covers a lot of that. The adoption of the food code and the bringing on of a third-party inspector, we also felt that it was, as we've discussed during the previous meetings on this topic, a good time to introduce a health permit fee. As we've discussed previously, the Village of Wheeling is one of the only municipalities in this area that does not have a health permit fee currently. At the last meeting on the topic, we were asked to look at ways of possibly splitting out the fee for our smaller establishments. We did some research on that, and as a result, we have modified the suggestion. The fees that we had previously discussed have been modified slightly, and that recommendation is part of the next item on the agenda. It's part of the annual fee schedule adoption. So the recommendation was to reduce the fee for low-risk establishments from what had been suggested previously, I think $250 per year, down to $150 per year now. So that modification is included in the annual adoption of the fee schedule for the village. With that, hopefully I can answer any questions that you have on the proposed amendments.
Trustee Papantos.
Yes, two quick questions. Do our establishments, our food serving establishments know about this at this point? Have they been made aware by the state and/or FDA that there will be a new inspection guideline, or at least have they had an opportunity to feed into this? Do you know?
So the official notice will go out to all of them. Those who are chains who have multiple locations are likely aware. They've seen this. We do have several chains in town. So it won't be a surprise for some of our restaurants. I think the letter that we've drafted will be the first notice that some of them have. I don't know if, Serena, if you have any additional comments on it.
Good evening. As we've been doing the inspections, I have been informing the restaurants of the new change. So most of them should know, hopefully, that it's coming.
And how long do we expect that we'll have to have a third-party vendor doing the inspections? Is this for the first year, first 5 years?
Well, it's absolutely for the first year. We have like I said, a very high volume of restaurants. We're also experiencing we're experiencing a high volume of construction right now. So our staff resources are dedicated to construction inspections, construction plan review, et cetera. So definitely for the first year, reevaluate it, see how it's going, and come up for next year's budget. We would evaluate at that point and make a recommendation to the board as to whether or not it's something that we think is necessary, but at least for a year and possibly beyond.
And will you be receiving training on these inspections, or is this something that we just have to learn on our own?
We have been receiving training for the 2013 FDA code. I will be reviewing the third party. So every inspection they do, I will be reviewing all of it.
Which is more work. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Papantos. No other questions? We need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Motion, Trustee Vogel, second, Trustee Kruger. Roll call, please.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Vito?
No.
Trustee Papanos?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Kruger?
Yes.
President Horker?
Yes.
E, ordinance amending chapters 1.26 and 4.13.020 of the Wheeling Municipal Code regarding village fees and charges.
Mr. Monshane.
Thank you, President Horker. This is the annual schedule of fees. As you'll all recall, we increase the fees on an annual basis based on the change in the consumer price index for the Midwest region, and the reason that the board adopted this ordinance many years ago, or this program rather, was to ensure that the fees that the village charges for the various services it provides keep pace with inflation and cover the cost of providing those services. So this year, the change in the CPI is 2%. Last year, it was 1.61%, and all of the fees that are subject to changing have been adjusted by that 2% this year. So I'll be happy to answer any questions you have.
Thank you. Questions? No questions, no comments. Need a motion to approve.
So moved. Second.
Motion, Trustee Kruger, second, Trustee Papantos.
Trustee Papanos?
Yep.
Okay, gotcha.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Kruger?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Papanos?
Yes.
Trustee Vito?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
President Horker?
Yes. Official communications. Deputy Clerk Canterbury, you have something for us.
Yes. The first date of file petitions for the April 2nd, 2019 consolidated election will be Monday, December 10th, starting at 7 a.m. The last date of file candidate petitions will be Monday, December 17th until 5 p.m. Petitions are to be filed at the office of the village clerk, 2 Community Boulevard, 2nd floor administration. That's all I have.
Anything else? Trustee Papantos?
Thank you. I'd like to express my gratitude and congratulations to our finance department, who has learned that the comprehensive annual financial report for fiscal year ending 2017 has qualified for the Government Finance Officers Association Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting. It's a mouthful, but this is the 37th consecutive year that the village has won this award. So congratulations to Director Mondeshane and his staff and the previous directors from 37 years beyond and all of their staff. I think that is quite an achievement. Only 152 municipalities in Illinois have received the award, and only 12 have received it more times than the Village of Wheeling. I think that says an awful lot about our finance department and the amount of work we do, and that there are other agencies who are reviewing everything that happens here and are satisfied with it, more than satisfied with everything we do. Thank you very much. And I also wanted to please emphasize to people, if you're parked on the street and it's snowing, would you please remove it? I personally live in a neighborhood that people park on the street. I've watched the guys plowing. I don't know how they do it. And then afterwards, the people who are parked on the street go and shovel all the snow off of their cars onto the street, which really irks me if my driveway's clean. So please remember to move the cars, make it easier for people to plow. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Papantos. Any other official?
Oh, and happy Hanukkah to everybody.
Oh, yeah, a couple of nights ago. Late last week, I got an email from a resident about a police action that they witnessed take place at the Starbucks over at the Target on Lake Cook Road. Unlike a lot of emails we get relative to things people see, this was complimentary of the actions of our police officers in how they handled and de-escalated a loud, obnoxious, uncomfortable situation. And it just, while I was reading it, it occurred to me how often people will voice their concerns when something is going the way they don't feel it should, as opposed to how seldom people will speak up when things are going nicely, and how often this must occur for someone finally to have written a letter and making us aware of it. So the short part of this message is, Chief Dunn, I was originally going to ask you to compliment your officers for their behavior, but what I would like to do is compliment you for your leadership and emphasizing people to handle these situations in exactly whatever happened that way, at that place. So thank you for whatever it is you're doing. And like I said, to actually get a letter recognizing the de-escalation efforts that were occurring, it's got to be happening way more often to actually get a good letter. So that's all I have. You have before you this evening the bills for November 15th through the 28th. I need a motion for their approval.
So moved.
That was a motion for Trustee Kruger. Second.
Second.
Trustee Papantos, roll call, please.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Vito?
Yes.
Trustee Papanos?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Kruger?
Yes.
President Horker?
Yes, we do have an executive session this evening, so for the purposes of employment compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of a specific employee or employees of the village, I need a motion to recess into executive session.
So moved.
Motion, Trustee Papantos, second, Trustee Vogel. Roll call, please.
Trustee Kruger?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Papanos?
Yes.
Trustee Vito?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
President Horker?
Yes. Recess. Go out and play. Wait for us to come back.
Do you want me to have you sign all that?